MS Now's Ines de la Cuchara is in Jerusalem for us. Rosa Flores is checking on gas prices in Houston. Peter Baker is chief White House correspondent for the New York Times and an MS Now contributor. Henrietta Treyz is co-founder and director of economic policy at Veda Partners. It's good to have all of you here. Henrietta, you heard Neil Atkinson say that this could be an energy crisis, the likes of which we haven't seen. How bad could this get?
It's exhilarating, even though it might sound boring. The tankers trying to get through the Strait of Hormuz cannot flow because there's no way to ensure and protect against the risk of a bombing from a drone or a missile or any other kind of activity from Iran. So I'm speaking with the insurers all day long. As you pointed out, the strait is closed. And the president obviously did not anticipate this happening because he's trying to call the insurers into the White House to create some sort of backstop mechanism for this war, some sort of catastrophic risk insurance to get the tankers flowing. And they will not reach a price agreement because there is no way to guarantee safe passage. We've already seen that the cost of that insurance has skyrocketed up to $1 million for some of those tankers. And that's just for one run. There's no price that they can set on this. So the Strait of Hormuz is going to stay closed for the foreseeable future. And we've seen what that's doing to gas prices. Americans are paying $200 million a day more in gas today than they were 10 days ago. And that's because of the war.
So let me ask you about that phrase, the foreseeable future, and go back to what the energy secretary said, which is that this is going to be weeks, not months. Is it sure it's only going to be weeks?
Absolutely not. There's no guarantees on any of this duration. The market is cautiously optimistic that this is going to end within the next 3 weeks. But even if you were to reopen, think about the oil factories that are being shuttered right now and shut in. It takes weeks after the cessation of military activities to reopen and start drilling again. That is what we are dealing with. We are going to be in this situation at least a month from now, and that's if the war ends tomorrow.
So I think, Rosa, we made a little bit of news here and that the insurers are being, President wants to talk to them. They're not having any of it, at least at this point, about getting some sort of guarantees that they can safely transverse the Strait of Hormuz. So I know you're talking to people at gas pumps. Do they buy the idea this is just the price to pay for peace, as the president says?
You know, Chris, I really wish I could contribute more, but every single person that I've talked to at this gas station does not want to go on camera or doesn't want to talk about gas prices. And it might be because if you look behind me, the price of gas here is $2.99. And some of the people that I talked to said, you know, it's not that bad yet. But I want to give you some context because, as you mentioned, nationally, and here in the state of Texas and other states across the country, there has been a significant increase in the price of gas. And if you take a look at these full screens really quickly with me, I want to take you through them because nationally, there's been an increase in the past week of about 48 cents. Here in the state of Texas, the price of the gallon of gas has increased by 51 cents. In California, the increase is 54 cents. Now, I looked up about how much gas goes into a passenger car, just to give you a sense of how much money people are actually paying extra because of these prices. And it's between 12 and 16 gallons of gas. And if we do the math here really quickly, with an extra 50 cents, that is about, on the low end, $6 and on the high end, $8. So that's about how much people are paying extra, Chris, in gas. And if we put this in your favorite, for example, coffee, when you go at Starbucks, my producer's favorite is a grande Americano with a splash of soy. That's $4.25. So you could get an extra almost two of those by how much money you're paying at the pump. And Chris, we're in Texas. I got to put this in terms of tacos. That's 2 or even 3 tacos here at the gas station here where I am. So people are paying extra. Right now, they're not telling me much because they don't want to talk to me about gas prices. But when you put it in either coffee or tacos, people are paying extra money. Back to
There's
you.
no doubt about that. Thank you for that, Rosa. Peter, as you wrote this weekend, Donald Trump is the first president in modern times to go to war without a majority of the public behind him. He never went before the American people to make his case. And yet when it comes to things like higher gas prices, when anxiety about the economy, frankly, is already high, I mean, is his message to the American people, this is no big deal, be patient?
Well, I don't think a single social media post is going to do it. You know, if you have to explain to the American people why they need to make a sacrifice, it's going to take a little bit more than that, right? Most presidents in the past would have gone before the American public, an office, Oval Office address, some sort of a speech somewhere, some sort of more sustained and empathetic message to the American people about why they're seeing what they're seeing at the gas station. I think part of the issue here, one of the reasons he didn't have support of the public when he went in, is he never bothered to explain to them why he's doing what he's doing and the fact that it's happening now. I mean, he gave an 8-minute video that he posted online at 2 o'clock in the morning, and he outlined the history of Iran's offenses against the United States. True, most of them anyway, if not all of them. But he didn't explain, okay, so why now at this particular moment do we have to do this? And the American public is tired of war after 25 years in the Middle East. There's a lot of polarization that doesn't particularly, there's not a lot of support across party lines these days the way there have been in the past. And even, I think, even within his own MAGA coalition, there's concern because they thought they had voted for a guy who was not going to do regime change because he told us he wasn't going to do regime change. He told us, quote, no new wars.
So, Henrietta, that brings the obvious question. Does the administration have any real or easy options to try to bring down prices?
No, they don't. One of the main questions is about the Strategic Petroleum Reserve and not releasing it. And a big part that you don't see the release is because it's not really particularly helpful to the oil market or the gas market right now. That is heavy, dirty crude that needs to go through a refinery in order to be sold to the American public. So even that is not a silver bullet. You need to do all of these things at once, the insurance angle, the SPR release, and you needed to make sure the SPR was full before you launch this war. It's pretty clear that the administration's got, sort of caught the tire, they caught the car, the dog that caught the car, because they do not have a comprehensive plan for how to wage this war in perpetuity going forward. And what the real tell from my seat is that the administration is about to go to Congress and say, look, we need a second farmers bailout because it's not just oil that's not coming through the Strait of Hormuz. It's also fertilizer. So the farmers who have already been beaten up by the trade wars are getting doubly slammed by the Iran war. And then you also need to have more money for the Pentagon. If they need more missiles, if they need more ammunition over there, they need another $50 to $100 billion. And the reality is we are looking at least $150 billion second supplementary spending package to get through this specific emergency. So when Congress returns from Doral, where they're talking about mail-in balloting and electoral reform, they're going to have to come back and pass a bill spending more of our tax dollars on this war, bailing out farmers, bailing out the Pentagon, and being able to perpetuate this for much longer than they anticipated.
So, Ines, you are in Israel. From that vantage point, what's the latest on the war?
Yeah, Chris, the attacks on Israel very much continuing. We were in Haifa earlier today up north near Israel's northern border. Sirens going off twice there. Then we moved to Tel Aviv. Sirens going off twice there as well. Then we hit the road to travel back to Jerusalem, and sirens went off while we were on the road again. We saw what we believe were the interceptions of at least one drone. And there is a sense here when you talk to Israelis that things could get worse before they get better. They're very much bracing for additional attacks. There are concerns about this turning into a wider regional war. Of course, today we got news that NATO had intercepted a missile heading towards Turkey, and there are concerns about the fighting raging on Israel's northern border, as well as the IDF and Hezbollah continue to, go back and forth. We found out from the IDF that at least 2 IDF soldiers were killed while fighting Hezbollah on Israel's northern border. And earlier today, I did speak to the mother of an IDF soldier who lost both of his legs in one battle. He is now on the mend in a hospital, but a very dire situation there for that family. But still, she tells me she supports the war. I'll let you listen to what she had to say.
We send our children into the army knowing that we may pay the highest price, but this is what we are doing. There's no other option. Being so religious and believing in God, you see the way God is just taking care of us with such a lot of mercy, If my son had to be wounded, but all that happened is losing his legs, but his head will be, thank God, okay, and he's alive. The only thing I have is to thank God for that.
And that's something we've heard time and time again from Israelis here. Even those who oppose the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tell us they are on board with this operation, and they support the operation in Iran. They want to see the IDF and the U.S. keep going until they reach all their goals. But again, there is a sense this is going to continue, especially with the second son of the late Supreme Leader being named as his successor. The Israelis have said they would continue going after any successor to the Ayatollah. We know President Trump has said that Mojtaba Khamenei is an unacceptable choice. So there is a sense here that the Iranian regime naming Mojtaba Khamenei is an indication that they plan to double down on their hardline policies. And so that means that the fighting is likely going to keep going.